It was a night unlike any other. The moon hung low in the sky, its silver light shimmering on the dark waves of the Aegean Sea. A young woman named Medusa wandered along the deserted shores of a forgotten island, her heart filled with longing for the world she had lost. Once she had been a beautiful woman, renowned for her unmatched beauty. Her hair had once flowed like silk, shining and waving in the sunlight. Her eyes had the power to make even the stars envious, but now she was nothing more than a walking legend, a monster in the eyes of mortals. But she hadn't always been like this. Her story began in the temple of Athena. Medusa, a priestess of the goddess, was devout and obedient. Her days were filled with offerings and prayers. They worshipped Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war. Medusa had never dreamed that her beauty would become a curse. Not until that fateful day, the voices of the city whispered, "Medusa, her beauty is divine." The rumors reached not only mortals, but also the ears of the mighty Poseidon, the god of the sea. He, a being of unstoppable force and desire, was immediately drawn to Medusa. His lust became his downfall. One day, when the sun was at its peak and the temple of Athena was empty, Poseidon came like a storm crashing from the sea. He found Medusa alone, praying. Without any warning, he pulled her to him, intending to take her as he always did, with no regard. But Medusa fought back. She pleaded and cried, but her prayers went unheard. The marble walls of the temple could offer no protection against a god. Poseidon had imposed his will. Medusa was violated, broken in the temple of the goddess she had faithfully served. When Athena learned of what had happened in her sacred temple, she was furious. But her anger was not directed at Poseidon. A god would never be punished. Instead, she turned to Medusa, the mortal who had defiled her temple. Athena's eyes sparkled with rage, her voice echoing like thunder. "Disloyal child," Athena said coldly, "you have defiled my sanctuary. You used your beauty to tempt a god." Medusa fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "No, no," she begged, "it wasn't my fault. I never asked for his attention." But Athena's eyes were blinded by pride and resentment. She pointed a single finger at Medusa, her words as sharp as a sword. "If beauty is your power, then it will now be your curse." And with those words, Medusa felt an unimaginable pain surge through her body. Her silken hair transformed into writhing snakes, hissing as they slithered across her shoulders. Her eyes, once so bright and beautiful, were cursed with the power to turn anything they gazed upon into stone. Her skin turned a pale shade, her entire being transformed into something grotesque. Medusa was no longer a woman. She was a monster. Athena had made her a living legend, a nightmare that all feared. "Leave this place," Athena commanded. "Go to the farthest reaches of the world. No one shall ever look upon your beauty again without suffering the consequences." And so Medusa fled, cloaked in despair, to a remote island where no one could find her. She became lonely, cursed never to gaze upon a human being without causing their death. The years passed, and Medusa's heart grew as cold as the stone statues she unintentionally created. She learned to live with her curse, with her snake-like hair and deadly gaze. She became a rumor, a fable mothers told their children to warn them of evil. But Medusa longed for the past, for the girl she had once been. In her loneliness, she often asked herself the same question. Why was I punished for something I couldn't prevent? The answer remained unspoken, lost in the winds that howled over her island. Then one day, everything changed. A young hero named Perseus heard of the monstrous woman who could turn anyone into stone. Armed with a magical shield, a sword from the gods, and a helmet that made him invisible, he set sail for Medusa's island. His mission? To bring her head to King Polydectes. Perseus approached the island with a determined look. His shield, a gift from Athena herself, reflected the moonlight. He knew he could not look Medusa directly in the eyes, but her reflection would help him defeat her. Medusa, now bitter from her years of isolation, sensed the presence of the intruder before she saw him. "Who dares disturb my refuge?" she hissed. The snakes on her head writhed anxiously. Perseus, clever and cautious, held the shield up and slowly approached her step by step, only looking at her terrifying form in the reflection. In a moment of cruel irony, when Medusa turned, she didn't see the gaze of an enemy but her own reflection in the gleaming shield. She was, like so many before her, turned to stone, but this time not by her own hand. Perseus raised his sword and with a swift motion severed Medusa's head from her body. Her snakes screamed one last time before they fell silent, frozen for eternity. The story of Medusa became just one of the many heroic deeds that would glorify Perseus. But for Medusa, her end was merely an escape from eternal torment. Her tragic fate, a woman cursed to become a monster, had finally come to an end.